is the higher service and wages price enough to keep pausing? When you have the headline figure, for example, back within range, 2% there. You have GDP for the month exceeding expectations at 0.4%. PMI showed a sign of livelihood. Is that enough?
Look, the inflation numbers, as you say, are still at high levels. Growth is resilient, but we think we're making progress when you look under the hood. So, for example, on services inflation, that has come in higher than the MPC had expected, but it's purely driven by some of the volatile components, for example, hotel prices. And they've been pretty clear in the past that they look through those volatile components and that they focus on what the underlying trend is in services inflation. And when you look at that, there has been progress. It's marginal, but I think it's moving in the right direction. And there's also been some progress on the labor market in terms of rebalancing and a little bit on the wage side. So we think when you look at the totality of that data, it's probably enough for them to cut. But as you say, it's going to be pretty close because it depends a little bit where you look in terms of the data, and then there are also some specific questions around how individual people will vote.
Yeah, we saw the Fed yesterday also make note of how jobs market would be a crucial piece of the puzzle in order to start reducing borrowing costs, not just inflation. Is that how important the unemployment figure as well in the UK is for the BOE before making this decision?
I think it's a bit less important in the UK. First of all, the Fed has a dual mandate. The Bank of England, of course, just has an inflation target. So naturally, I think the US puts a bit more weight on the labour market figures. And then also we have some data issues here in the UK in terms of the response rate to the labour force survey. So I think it plays a more muted role in the UK. But nonetheless, there has been weakening in the labour market when you look at a broad range of indicators, so not just the unemployment rate, but also vacancy rates, for example. There has been rebalancing. So I think it's pretty clear that the labour market is loosening. I think the bigger question is around services inflation and wage growth, which, as we said, are still at high levels, but our judgment would be that they're moving in the right direction, that you can start taking off some of that top rate. And keep in mind the 5.25% of bank rate were calibrated to a very different inflation environment.